It's the Gear Tester here, and I'd like to talk about wilderness medicine and how athletic tape can be very beneficial to you in a wilderness situation when it comes to some minor and maybe some major medical problems or difficulties that you might encounter. I started using athletic tape in the wilderness environment, kind of outside of sports equipment, about 8 years ago. And I found it very beneficial. I was working in a national park with a group of people. We are a private organization, but we are allowed to work in the national park. And I did that for 2 summers. And so that meant that I spent multiple months in a wilderness situation. And we had access to good medical care, but when you're out backpacking or hiking or leading groups in different activities in the wilderness, it's nice to have some different pieces of equipment already with you. One of the things that I and a number of the other individuals who I was working with did is we wore Chaco sandals. I love these things. This spring, you guys are going to see a review. I've been using these for a long time, and I enjoy the Chaco sandals. But one of the things that happens to my feet is they crack. The back of my heel cracks when I wear these in a warm environment, in a dusty environment. But when I'm going in and out of streams, when I'm hiking a lot, these Chaco sandals can be very beneficial, especially when it's hot. So I chose to continue wearing them, but it became very painful on the back of my feet, the cracking that was happening. Even when I was using products like this, Healthy Feet, my feet were still cracking. I was not able to maintain because I'd get this stuff on my feet and then I'd step out of my tent or out of my cabin into the dust, and the dust and the heat would just suck all the moisture that I'd tried getting into my feet. So even using a product like this and other products, we're not being able to keep up with the pain and the cracking. I mean, we're talking deep cracks into my feet as my feet calloused up. It was extremely painful. A couple of the other people that I was working with suffered from that same problem. So one of the doctors that we had access to said, you guys need to get some athletic tape. And they just started taping. I just started taking that tape and just taping it across the back of my heel. So I'd run from... use my shoe. I'd run from about right back here on my foot, and I just run a loop of that over my heel, and then I might run another piece over my foot so that I had tape-on-tape contact. And that basically got rid of the problem. As long as I kept my feet taped, it helped hold some of the moisture in, but those cracks did not grow. And then when I had an opportunity, I could use some kind of a foot ointment and wear socks a little bit, and that would keep my heel moist. Another way is to file your heels down. So a combination of that stuff, and that really put athletic tape on my radar. And because I had it with me, because I was worried about cracking heels, I started using it for other things. And the way I would use it is I would use it not as a bandage, but to increase the usefulness of a bandage. And that, like these Band-Aids, I always try to have Band-Aids with me. But when you get a cut on your hand or an elbow or something like that, even if you have bigger panel Band-Aids, a lot of times those Band-Aids will come off when it's in a joint and you're trying to move it, or on the palm of your hand here, in between fingers, on a finger, and you're still having to do things like rock climbing, you're still using ropes, you're still having to belay people, that kind of thing. The athletic tape really comes in handy because you can beef up a Band-Aid. So you can put ointment, you can put the Band-Aid down, and then you can beef it up with this athletic tape. And one of the reasons I'm doing this video is I was doing the dishes recently at my house, and I was washing one of these blue cups. And I was holding like this, and the cup actually cracked in my hand as I was washing it. Must have already had a hairline fracture in it. And when it cracked, I didn't know what was happening, and I thought I was dropping it, so I grabbed it even tighter. And it cracked like so with a very angled point. And I drove that point, I'm healed up well now, but I drove that point into the palm of my hand. And it was deep enough that it really started that deep red blood that you get if you're a hunter, that you see when you made a good shot on an animal and it's dying. It was some deeper blood. It wasn't just nice light colored blood. It was a deep red blood, and I knew that I was deep into my hand and there was a lot of bleeding. So I went and got a Band-Aid. The problem was it needed some pressure on it, and I wanted to continue being able to do the dishes. Well, I started looking, and I couldn't find any athletic tape because I had it all in my different little emergency bags, camping equipment, because that's where I tend to need it when I'm using knives and things and tend to cut myself or bust my knuckles up. So I ended up having to dig into some camping equipment and use this piece of athletic tape, and I used that, and I just wrapped So I had the Band-Aid on my hand. I just wrapped once around my thumb and over, and was able to, I didn't put a lot of tension. You can put too much tension on and restrict the flow of blood through your body if you had to do that. You don't want to do that. In my case, I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to have a little bit additional pressure so I could continue working with my left hand and have my right hand be all healed up. There are lots of situations where an ace bandage will do a great job for you on a sprained ankle or some other problem. But if you're going to be having to continue to hike, like you're having to hike out, like you sprained an ankle badly, or someone in your group has sprained an ankle badly or sprained a wrist badly, and you still have to get out, you're 20 miles in, you're 15 miles in, you're 10 miles into a backpacking trip, and you need to get back out, the ace bandage can sometimes be a little problematic, especially if you're sweaty and you're hot and you're grimy and it's dirty. The athletic tape can be a much better option. And I've sprained my ankles and really enjoyed the fact, not enjoyed the sprained ankle, but enjoyed the fact that I didn't have to use an ace bandage, that I could do a couple wraps of athletic tape. When you're using athletic tape, one of the nice things about it is that it adheres to itself very nicely. So for instance, if I was worried about my wrist here, and I had hurt my wrist, I might wrap it like so. You don't want to just one wrap. What you want to do is do a couple wraps. Again, you want to be careful. You can apply enough pressure that it won't, you know, it's not going to be like a tourniquet. It's not going to have that amount of power. But you can come back over that wrist, and then if you wrap it again and you get that tape touching itself, wherever that tape touches itself, it adheres much better than just to your skin. It's very nice. The athletic tape just tears very easily. You don't have to cut it. So now I've reinforced my wrist. Okay, now boxers do this much better than I'm doing it here. But let's just say I had a sprained wrist. My right wrist has some weakness from an old snowboarding injury that I never really not treated well. That kind of a thing. Same idea with a wrist. You want that tape adhering to itself. It's going to adhere much better. Now over time it's going to get a little bit goopy, and it's going to come off, and so you're going to have to redo that. But I found that if you tape your wrist like this, your ankle similar to this, and you can do a couple more wraps. Don't tighten it down. Your body's gonna, especially in heat, your body's gonna expand. So I would leave more space than you felt were needed, but a little bit of additional support. The athletic tape can be really beneficial in a wilderness situation where you have to hike out, where you have to get through what you're doing, and you're gonna need to self-help yourself. Ace bandages are a great idea. Band-Aids are a great idea, but using these in tandem, or if you have like cotton pads, if you've got a bigger cut or a burn or something, you can put some Vaseline or some other product down and then cover it. Even like a woman's sanitary pad, if you had to use that, you got to clean one of those, put that down. The athletic tape is a great way of adhering larger pads, pieces of material and ointment to areas like a burn, a cut, a really bad scrape, and you're able to improvise in a wilderness situation because you got the athletic tape. I pay about $6 for a roll. This stuff is 1.5 inches wide and gives you 10 yards. So that's like 30 feet of this stuff. And I don't find that I go through it very quickly, but I do find that it is useful. One of the things that you saw that I had on this particular roll of athletic tape before, at the beginning of this video, was this little Wrap It. And this is just a heavy duty storage cable strap. Relatively inexpensive. I think I paid about $1 for these. It's about $1.50 maybe for each of them. You can see there you can wrap different cords and things. But the way I've set it up here is I run it through the athletic tape so that I don't lose the athletic tape. And this is particularly if I'm wanting to use this, if I know I'm going to be using this consistently. For instance, you're with a group of people on a backpack trip that are prone to hurting themselves. Now I can just clip this inside my bag or my pack, maybe even on the outside of my pack, like this here. I might run it through like so, and now I have access to it. I might even tuck this inside the bag so it's not super visible, but it's easily accessible and I'm not losing it. I'm not laying it down. I can still dispense it, kind of like a tape dispenser. I can still dispense it from this Wrap It, and I'm able to maintain it and not lose it in my gear and equipment, in my bags. I don't know what pockets it's in. It just helps me maintain where this is, how to use it. It's great. I found when I started having this with me in wilderness situations, and the people I was working with those 2 summers that I worked in that national park, they knew that I had this stuff. And I was surprised at how many people in my group would come to me and say, dude, can I use some of that athletic tape? I found myself improvising like super band-aids for people a lot because they would scrape a knee or something as we scrambled over boulders, as we did activities like rock climbing and different things. So that was very beneficial to have the athletic tape, and I kind of became the dispenser of athletic tape for those individuals as we enjoyed the wilderness. So there's a little modification you can do with the Wrap It. I would definitely recommend athletic tape for you if you're headed out into the wilderness. You're going to be in a wilderness situation and might need to increase your ability to help yourself get out of a situation to where you can receive better medical care. Subscribe for more quality video reviews of shooting, camping, and survival gear.